It's 14 December. I'm Charlie Garrett, and this is the CG Prophecy Report. Florida fun? Hurty feelings will change that. That and a lot of other things to go over on today's report. Okay, we got a couple of visitors today. We got Don and Andrea Murray. They're from outside of Philly. And they were here, he says, 4 years ago. And we did a baptism for them while they were here. And so it's wonderful to have you visiting again. And they said that there's snow in Philadelphia. And I asked, what is snow? So anyway, there you go with that. And then Lee is here today. He's leaving after church to head back to Delaware. It's been a wonderful visit. And he's one of the online moderators that takes people when they're out of line and he puts them in a little prison cell off to the side. So very good job. Very thorough man. So here we go. We got, well, before I get into Israel news, we had some shootings. Jim mentioned this before we got started with the report, but we had one in Brown University, and that was just a while ago, sometime last night. And they still have not released a name. All they've said it's a male, and then, of course, they blow the pronouns by saying their name is not identified yet. Okay, so it says very specifically it's a male. Instead of saying him, they're cautious to not offend somebody and say their, okay, which is nonsense. And then, of course, we had, I wake up, first thing, 3 o'clock this morning, I get an emergency email from Israel that people in Australia were targeted, Jews in Australia. And, of course, it's Islam. My thought on this, and I'm not going to dwell on it because we don't have all of the information, but what we are doing all over the world, we were doing it for 4 years, actually longer than that, but for the 4 years of Biden, it was on hyperdrive, is we're importing the worst of the worst. And I'm not saying everybody that came over the border is bad, okay, but we are allowing the worst of the worst to come over the border. And they are replacing, because as they come in and start shooting Jewish people, they will leave and go to Israel for a safe homeland. So we are replacing the best with the worst of the worst. The word pond scum is way too good for them. And this is happening all over Europe. Every country in Europe, they are importing people hostile to their values and particularly hostile to the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are leaving in droves, as one would expect, and as the Bible prophesied, by the way. But they are leaving, and they're getting rid of their brain power, just like Hitler did. Hitler got rid of their brain power with the Jewish people, and guess who got them? People like America and England. And they went in there, and they basically were behind the development of winning the war, okay? And to this day, we've got Jews that are in the government that are running things because it is a positive thing that they do. If you knew how many people of Trump's cabinet were Jewish, you wouldn't believe it. And that's because they're capable, competent people. You keep bringing in people like this, and you're going to lose them. Australia has some of the strongest gun laws around. Everybody gave up their guns years ago. They voluntarily said, we're going to do this. And if people were armed in Australia today, those people would have been taken out very quickly. They would have been taken out. Okay, that is not the case, and a lot of people were killed. If somebody were to do the same thing in Sarasota, Florida, they would be held down with fire. They may be behind something and unable to shoot, which is fine until the police can come in and take them out, but they would have been at least held down by people firing at them. Okay, and they may have been taken out by good guys. One guy in Australia, if you didn't see the video, he went behind one of the shooters and he grabbed him and he disarmed him. Okay, so he held the gun at him, and I guarantee you the reason why he didn't shoot that terrorist is because if he did, he would be in jail for the rest of his life. Okay, and so the guy got away, and he's doing whatever he's doing now. But if it was here in America, and we'll just say somebody named Charlie was to take that gun away from the guy, that person, Charlie, would have just taken his head clean off and been done with it. Okay, so there is a difference in how we do things, say, in New York and in Sarasota, Florida. That's just a hypothetical person. I'm not sure if you know anybody named Charlie, but if that offends you, I don't care. I really don't. I stay armed all the time to protect all of the people around me. And if that person is a threat to the people around me, he can shoot me all day. I'm going to go be with Jesus. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is to see people that I care about, and people in general I care about. I want to see them safe. And so there you go. If that offends you, then be offended. I don't care. We got some news from Israel. Times of Israel. Israel delivers Arrow 3 to Germany in the largest defense export deal ever. So as soon as Germany, a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I think it was last week, they said, okay, we're over the Gaza nonsense and we're going to go ahead and make up with Israel. As soon as they do, they're getting their Arrow 3 long-range missile defense system, completing a $4.6 billion sale. The completion of the sale marked the first time the Arrow 3 system has been deployed beyond the borders of Israel and the United States, and the first time the advanced system was operated independently by another country, meaning we've got Jews that are in America with our Arrow 3 assisting in this. The system was deployed at the Holzdorf Air Base in eastern Germany, some 75 miles south of Berlin, with additional sites to follow. From JNS. Thailand buys Israel's Barak MX air defense system in $107 million deal. The Air Force must be prepared for future threats by procuring modern weapon systems to enhance air defense, which currently faces limitations in dealing with emerging threats effectively, said the Royal Thai Air Force. And of course, they're having problems still with Cambodia. They kind of broke out again. Trump called them. They calmed down. If you were reading the left-leaning news, they would say everything Trump has done is collapsing. Okay, that's not the case. People get angry, people make mistakes, people shoot guns, and then you have to re-intervene. That doesn't mean that the peace deal has collapsed, and I'm talking about all of them. They're saying everything that Trump has done. He did 7 peace deals, and they're all falling apart. Like 1.5 of them is having difficulty right now. So don't believe, whatever, read it if you want, but if you read the left-leaning news, take it all with a grain of salt. From the Times of Israel, Guinness World Records says it stopped taking records from Israel after October 7th. So get attacked by a terrorist nation or a terrorist group of people, and, thinking of that, you know what's going to happen in the next week or two with this Bondi Beach shooting? It's going to be Israel's fault. Somehow it is the Australian people and their government are going to somehow find a way of blaming this on Israel. That Jews deserve to be shot, and these two need to be coddled too. I can just see it. But that's what's happening here with the Guinness World Records. You get attacked. It would be like somebody attacking America, we'll just say on September 11th. Just pick a day out of the blue. And they come in and they kill a bunch of Americans, right? And then the Guinness World Record people say, well, we're not going to take any records from America because they're bad people because they got attacked, right? It would be like doing that. In current climate, we are not generally processing record applications from Palestinian territories or Israel, it says. Israel holds many records. And if they would allow them to continue, with their records from October 7th till now, I guarantee you they'd have a lot more. But they don't want to acknowledge that because the people that attack them are Islamic terrorists. And so we don't want to offend anybody, and so they don't say these things. Times of Israel. Netanyahu doubles down on assertion that he'll visit New York City once Mamdani becomes mayor. The prime minister says he's open to speaking with the mayor-elect if the latter agrees to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. Well, he's not going to, and so he's not going to be speaking to him directly. But I don't know if you saw this week, Hochul came out and she said he cannot arrest Netanyahu. It cannot happen. And so just be advised that all of it is a bunch of wind from this guy, and he really knows nothing about the law. He is saying now that he is going to actively have his police work against ICE. As soon as he does that, he will find himself incarcerated. It's not like Chicago and Oregon and all these places that say you cannot assist ICE. When you start working against ICE, that becomes a federal crime. There's a difference, and we'll see that coming soon, that he will not do that because he doesn't want to be in federal prison. Jerusalem Post, UNGA calls for Israeli withdrawal from Golan Heights in approved resolution. Here's what happens every year. Israel during wartime seized the Golan Heights, meaning that they won. That is their property now. Anytime somebody gets something in war, it becomes the property of that nation. Now, years later, people may dispute it, but the UN doesn't get in there and say, well, Germany has parts of Poland that were there after World War II, and they have to give them back. The Russians went in and took part of Japan, the Kuril Islands up in the north, a couple days before the war ended. And nobody says they have to give them back. People dispute that, but nobody's saying, well, we're not going to recognize you or anything, or we're going to do all these sanctions against you if you don't do this, with the exception of Israel. Okay, so some 123 countries voted in favor of the resolution, 7 voted against it, and 41 abstained. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, later called the vote a farce. The UNGA once again proves how disconnected it is from reality. Instead of addressing the crimes of the Iranian Axis and dangerous activities of militias in Syria, it demands that Israel withdraw from the Golan Heights, a vital defense line that protects our citizens. Israel will not return to the 1967 lines and will not abandon the Golan, not now, not ever. A couple more points on that. Israel not only won that in a battle, so it's theirs. We could say that's disputed, but we cannot dispute that over a year ago, a country named Syria had what happened? It was overthrown by enemies. It was overthrown, not within, from without. That means that the Syrian government ceased to exist, and another government came in and took over the Syrian people. Everybody got that? When that happened, every right to anything outside of Syria, including the Golan Heights, they lost right to. If it was within that government, maybe you could argue, but you can't. Those people came in and they overthrew a standing government. They have no right to the Golan Heights at all. Everybody got that? That's how these things work in the normal world, but the UN doesn't see that. Secondly, as Danny Danon rightly said, if they were to give up the Golan Heights, they would have no protection at all. Zero. It is less than, it's like a 15-second flight across Israel without the Golan Heights. It's all downhill, which means that it's fighting upwards for Israel. It's only a couple miles wide at that point out to Tel Aviv. There would be no hope for Israel in today's modern war battlefield for Israel if they were to allow that to be given up. It ain't going to happen, and they have no right to it on Syria's side. Breitbart. Israel to deploy Iron Beam laser shield by year's end, vows to change battlefield rules. We've been reporting on that since it was first being developed, and they say, year's end, man, that's just 16 days away. Actually, is it 17? 17 plus 14, 31? Yeah, 17 days away. But it's half day over here, so it would be 16 and a half days. And rounding down, because I get up really early in the morning, I was right, 16 days. Okay, from all Israel, Golden Country no longer. Australian Jews alarmed by sharp rise in anti-Semitism, government in action. And what did we have this morning to validate that, right? They're not doing anything. People are being targeted over there by the people that they brought in, unvetted, just like America, that are hostile to their own country and to the people in their country of different ethnicities like the Jewish people. It's a great model for success. Okay, great model. From all Israel, IDF launches new artificial intelligence division, Bina, aiming to multiply its military power. Okay, we got some news from Christianity Today from My Charisma, which is kind of, it would be like the, I'll keep my comments about My Charisma. Just the word charisma ought to tell you. But anyway, but they did get this article kind of right. Candace Owens pushes wild conspiracy against Calvary Chapel, Chuck Smith, and Jack Hibbs. Okay, so we got some real lunatics over there, right? I mean, we're talking Chuck Smith and Jack Hibbs. I mean, real out of the mainstream. These are mainstream people that are targeted in their Christianity. Well, Chuck Smith, he's a little gone now, but Jack Hibbs, he's spot on. He's just a great preacher. And what do you think this is surrounding? If she's attacking them, what issue do you think she's talking about? Israel. Okay. In recent videos, she attempted to paint Calvary Chapel's pro-Israel stance as a product of military or intel manipulation, even suggesting links to psychological operations and CIA involvement. Wow. Yeah, these claims rewrite Christian history and ignore the well-documented reality that Calvary Chapel sparked the Jesus movement, led thousands to Christ, and considers to uphold a clear scriptural position on Israel rooted in God's covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Owens also questioned why veterans often become pastors, implying that's like Charlie Garrett was a veteran and implying that military service signals participation in coordinated agenda. Never mind the fact that Israel was the last thing on my mind during my time in Japan and Malaysia and whatever. I'm just thinking about living my life and doing my job, whatever. This accusation dismisses the testimonies of countless men and women who encountered Christ, found healing, and stepped into the ministry after leaving the service. Hey, she's just gone completely off the deep end. Completely. Breitbart. New York Methodist pastor declares himself transgender. No more pretending to be a man. So now he's pretending to be a girl. So I get to announce with joy that I'm transitioning. I'm affirming to you all that I'm transgender. The best way to put this is that I'm not becoming a woman. I'm giving up pretending to be a man. This is a process, and it may be shocking for some as to what this all means. Since coming out to my congregation, they have been overwhelmingly affirming. Yeah, Funoff said. His parents, however, have not been as supported. At least they have some brains. They asked me to tell you all that they do not support me, he told his congregation. They asked me to tell you this. The UMC previously reversed its doctrine against LGBTQ plus sexualities and identities. The UMC commits to befriending and caring for all persons, including LGBTQ persons in our churches and communities. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? But this is the world in which we live. Jim Hoft, who is he's the writer, the main guy at the Gateway Pundit. He also has his own website. And on his website, Catholic Charities in Oklahoma turned Afghan resettlement into a federal cash pipeline. During the invasion of legal and illegal immigrants, and this is something I reported on several times, that they are making millions and even hundreds of millions of dollars off of you because of their questionable activities, and it was condoned by the Biden administration, who doesn't even like religion, but they were willing to do it because these people are helping them to perform their agenda. This was rationalized as a good thing, while the downside was never considered. Many of these immigrants were not vetted, and millions were illegal. However, Catholic Charities generated substantial revenue. The Catholic Church is seeing the greatest net losses, here it is, of believers compared to other religions in the U.S. So they are losing everything. You know, they've got dozens and dozens of lawsuits every year, rape of children, rape of young girls, and, sleeping with people's wives and all that kind of stuff. They have to pay out millions and millions and millions of dollars every year doing this, and they're losing congregants. So what do? We need to keep our money up. We got to keep funding the Pope over in the Vatican. So they do these things, which are questionable even on a good day, and they're doing it with zeal because they're making millions. It's all about money with the Catholic Church. For every one person received into the Catholic Church, another 8.4 individuals have left the faith. The only category that went up was federal grants. When Catholic Charities of Oklahoma City bragged about resettling more Afghans than any other Catholic Charities office in America, they wrapped it in warm language about the stranger, the common good, and serving our brothers and sisters. But the truth is simple. This wasn't Christian duty. This was a federal business operation. There you go. Catholicism in a nutshell in the 2020s. Religion unplugged. Quebec's Bill 9 pushes secularism further, moves to outlaw public prayer. So you can't pray in public anymore, or if they pass this bill in Quebec. So we've got all kinds of problems with the world, and this is just how things are going. Okay, it's going to be like France pretty soon. Now, here's what they do. They say this under the guise of Islam. These people have headscarves, and people are offended in this and that. So we're going secular, like France did. This is actually first an attack against Christianity, the predominant religion, and then they have to enforce it for these lesser ones, even though they're getting themselves exploded in the process. So this is the world that they have decided they want to live in. Some news from the Mideast and Africa today. I did get an answer on South Africa. Remember I said, if anybody from South Africa, is this real? And a lady didn't just come and say yes, and it was one line. It's like 3 pages. Okay, so it's too long to read. And she said, I asked her, if anybody wants this, can I just send it to them? So if somebody wants to see what she had to say, I will send it to you. That'll be fine. Just make a note and I will send it right off to you. But she detailed it, great detail of the killing of white people in South Africa. Okay, from all Israel. Majority of social media accounts claiming to be based in Gaza are reportedly managed abroad. So you got all these people that say they're in Gaza getting exploded and they're starving, and they're all people from other countries making stuff up. Much of the content is pro-Hamas and seeks to legitimize the terrorist organization Hamas. The study is based on the examination of 487 social media accounts that officially claim to be based in Gaza or in Judea, Samaria. The study revealed that less than 40%, so that's more than 60% of the accounts matched the location claimed in their respective social media profiles. Around a quarter of the accounts logged in from abroad. In addition, 38.4% of the accounts displayed a location that could not be verified. The ministry-led report revealed that influential accounts like the Times of Gaza and Gaza Now Arabic were not based in Gaza and were managed from abroad. The study discovered that many of the accounts are managed from countries such as the U.S., the UK, Turkey, Egypt, Indonesia, Nigeria, and the Netherlands. In addition, accounts that claim to be humanitarian activists or journalists based in Gaza appear to be managed from Belgium, Egypt, and other countries. The ministry assessed that the global anti-Israel campaign appears to be highly organized. There you go. So people have been lied to all along, and they really have no idea what they're dealing with, and yet they continue to believe these lies. From the Times of Israel, Iran and Turkey agree to build key trade rail link along the ancient Silk Road. The planned route, known in Iran as the Maran-Hamesh-Soraya Railway Transit Line and running towards Turkey's Aralık border region, will cover around 120 miles. It will cost roughly $1.6 billion and is expected to take 3 to 4 years to complete. Iran's Transport Minister Farzaneh Sadegh said the rail line would transform the southern section of what was once the Silk Road into an all-rail corridor, ensuring the continuity of the network between China and Europe. It would also ensure fast and cheap transport of all types of cargo with minimal stops. In 2013, China announced the construction of the Belt and Road Initiative, officially known as the New Silk Road, a project that aims to build maritime road and rail infrastructure to boost global trade. Iran has been seeking to expand infrastructure and trade with neighboring countries as part of the efforts to revitalize an economy strained by decades of international sanctions. So they're trying to get in there. They are tied at the hip with Turkey already, but now they're going to have this rail line, and you can see how things are lining up, as Ezekiel said they would, more and more, week after week. It just continues to grow. Zero Hedge. A third of Glasgow school children don't speak English. A third of them. 31% of pupils in the city's primaries requiring English as an additional language support, up from 25% 5 years ago. Amid Scotland's net migration hitting 50,000 annually. As classrooms grapple with translation demands and parents voice fears over cultural silos, the crisis underscores a broader UK strain where rapid demographic changes are testing the limits of cohesion without adequate planning. The report notes over 100 schools now have dedicated EAL coordinators, but funding lags behind demand. The city, Scotland's largest, absorbed 10,000 asylum seekers in 2024 alone under SNP policies, overwhelming housing and education. This has led to language silos in neighborhoods where Arabic dominates, and parents report parallel societies forming, and that will never change. Okay, now Trump has brought this up, people that come into society and do not assimilate, and he doesn't want that. He wants to get rid of these people. Can anybody think of an exception to this? They've been here since the early 1800s.
Amish?
No, I'm thinking of a little more squinty in the eyes, like my wife. They're everywhere. Chinatowns, everywhere. And they don't really assimilate outside of their people as far as a culture. And yet, they are productive within the society. They learn the English language. They have infrastructure elsewhere. They may live in the China area, but they go out, they expand themselves, they produce greatly within the society. Okay? There is a giant difference between the Chinese and between these Arabs that will come in and they will never be a part of the society and they will bleed off of the society. They are finding out that one of the things they have to do when they get these green cards and citizenships is they have to affirm that they are not on social dependency, and they will not be. And yet, like 90% of them are. They're unwilling to learn the language. They hate the United States of America. They vote for people that hate the United States of America. And this is the world in which we live. He is taking care of that. These people are not, and it will be the downfall of the EU, including the UK, who is not really in the EU anymore, but they are still with the same mindset. It's not going to end well for these people. The Bible actually speaks of it in the book of Daniel. They are a mixed people. They will not hold together. You've got the clay and the iron, and it will crumble. It will not last because of that. So, and yes, that is exactly what that is speaking of in Daniel. He saw it coming, and it is there. And it also tells you, by the way, where the beast is going to be located. People are always saying it's American. You have to have reality in your theology. The world is a real place, and God is prophesying real events that are occurring. So, I know people will disagree with that, but that's what's going on. From the Gateway Pundit. Imported violence. New hospital data confirms 50% surge in stabbing victims in 4 years as Germany's migrant crisis spirals. From the Times of Israel, Iran's currency falls to new low as nuclear sanctions squeeze its ailing economy. Iran's rial currency fell Wednesday to a new low of 1.2 million to the U.S. dollar. It used to be like a rial was worth $10, and now it's 1.2 million for $1. I'm kidding about the $10, but it's fallen immensely. Anyway, as nuclear sanctions squeeze Tehran's ailing economy. Mail Online. Alabama town crushes plans to build large Muslim school as locals say they fear becoming the next Dearborn or Great Britain. People in Alabama are thinking down there, aren't they? I mean, let's not repeat what has been so disastrously done elsewhere. We're not going to follow that path. Good job, Alabama. Mongolia. Asia News. Mongolia and Italy upgrade ties to strategic partnership during the state visit. This is like the 14th strategic partnership within the past year. Mongolia is slowly taking over the entire world. At the invitation of Italian President Mattarella, the president of Mongolia pays a state visit to the Republic of Italy. During the visit, the two countries agreed to raise the level of their bilateral relations to a strategic partnership, a major upgrade in diplomatic ties. By upgrading relations, Italy becomes the second EU member state to conclude a strategic partnership with Mongolia after Germany. Mongolia and Italy have committed to deepen cooperation across political, economic, security, and cultural fields. Mongolia already holds comprehensive strategic partnership relations with the Russian Federation and the PRC. It has other high-level partnerships with a number of countries, a strategic third neighborhood partnership with the United States, a special strategic partnership for peace and prosperity with Japan, and strategic partnership relations with Germany, the Republic of Korea, Kazakhstan, Turkey, and India. All they need to do is secure one with Peru, and they've got the world. That's it. It's done. From Daniel 12 Technology, Stars and Stripes. Army debuts, thanking the colonel for this one, robotic dining facility in South Korea, serving meals in minutes. Yes! A robotic kitchen that cooks portions and serves fresh meals with almost no human involvement is now operating at Market 19, the Army's first autonomous dining facility. The fully automated system works like a compact industrial kitchen using refrigerated storage, 8 induction stoves, and 2 robotic arms to move raw ingredients through the cooking process. Meals are prepared in a matter of minutes before the robot places them into heated pickup lockers. It's basically designed like a physical kitchen, but the robot takes over the handling between fridges, induction stoves, and dishwashing. It takes 3 to 5 minutes to cook a fresh dish. Unlike equipment that reheats pre-cooked items, the robot, called Eric, starts with raw ingredients, following a digital recipe sequence. Any ingredient that goes into the robot is still handled by humans. If carrots come in from a vendor, we still wash them, peel them, dice them, but that's really it. So they still have the peeling of potatoes. If you do wrong in the Army, that's one of the things that you get to do, is spend the next 10 weeks peeling potatoes. The robot takes care of the cooking process. Soldiers load the raw items into the system, and the robot does the rest. Culinary soldiers supporting the 6-month pilot program said the automated process also ensures accurate portioning, reduced food waste during busy periods. Everything here is weighed out in grams. This is the one downside of it. You can't give the cook a buck and get extra food. You get exactly what he prepares. He's robotic, so he weighs it to the micro-ounce. I mean, it's unbelievable. The robot's hoppers and baskets are tied to a scale, so we have complete control of portion sizes, and we can see which dishes are more popular and adjust preparation. A rotating menu offers several options throughout the week. A member of the command who chose the roasted turkey said the dish exceeded his expectations. The turkey was seasoned, the stuffing was pretty good, and considering a robot made it, it's pretty cool. That's a soldier for you. Okay, it's a dangerous world, including the inevitable plagues noted in the Book of Revelation. From Mail Online. Stricter guidelines demanded for flu shots by FDA regulator after memo links COVID jabs to deaths of 10 children. Dr. Vinay Prasad, and they said that never happened. Never happened. And this is just 10 that they know of, okay? They haven't done any real in-depth studies yet, but they know of 10. Dr. Vinay Prasad, the director of the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, conducted an initial review of 96 deaths between 2021 and 2024 that were reported to the VAERS. And Prasad came to the conclusion that at least 10 child deaths reported into the VAERS system could be directly attributed to the COVID-19 shots. Now, I mentioned this while the COVID thing was going on, is that when they came out with the influenza shot, and I can't remember when this was, I was younger, but it made all of the news. A couple people got sick. One person was very sick. Nobody died. And they pulled that vaccine. We are not administering this to the American people. They passed the COVID shots without any checks at all. They pumped people full of it all around the world. You saw the videos. You heard what was going on. And they just continued to allow it. They continued to allow it because this was a governmental intrusion into the rights of the American people and the world at large. A lot of countries have not overcome what happened to them. America, because of Donald Trump, is overcoming it. No info about the children, such as their ages or any possible underlying health problems they had, was provided in the memo. Since it was established in 1990, the VAERS database has compiled 2 million reports from Americans who say they had an adverse health reaction after taking a vaccine. These reports are unverified and are used by the scientific community to see if there are symptom patterns with any particular vaccine. It's not designed to definitively determine if vaccines are causing adverse effects. So there you go. From Vice. We may soon be able to eat bacon without killing pigs. Well, I got to tell you something. If it is bacon that isn't bacon, it ain't bacon, and I ain't eating it. Mission Barns is a California-based startup specializing in lab-grown pork. Their latest creation is a lab-grown pork fat that they hope will revolutionize the meat industry, how people eat, and reduce environmental damage. It's not going to happen on Charlie Garrett's table, I can tell you that. From WFTV, 14 confirmed cases of Legionnaire's disease in Central Florida from gym exposure. Gyms are like they're an infection soup. You go into a gym and there's infection everywhere.
Exercise, it's not good for you.
Listen, I would never go in a gym. I got friends that go in and they get mad at me for saying that, but I'm telling you what, it's like walking in the hospital and putting your tongue on the wall of the hospital and walking. Okay, that's not smart. I wouldn't do that in a gym either. People are perspiring, they're coughing up all over things. It's just an infection pot. And plus, like she said, I will not do exercise is not in my alphabet, okay? From Morality Today, Zero Hedge. UK girl barred from school over imprisoned mother's racist tweet. So mom made a tweet that they didn't like. They put her in prison, and now the child is suffering because of the mother's tweet. Lucy Connolly, the mother jailed for 31 months over a single anti-mass immigration tweet in 2024. She said, we don't need these type of people in this country, and they put her in prison for 31 months. Has revealed that her 13-year-old daughter, Edie, has been blocked from starting at a new school after the head teacher discovered her mother's identity and conviction, citing that racism doesn't go down well in their institution. Can you imagine that? I don't want these people in my country. They're ruining it. You go to prison, and then your kid's life is upheaved because of it. That's the UK today. And that's what America would be like today if Donald Trump didn't win. Yep. LifeSite. Massachusetts Dems proposed transgender commission to push gender ideology throughout the state. They're in charge of the state, and they want everybody to be forced into this. And so they've got an institution now set up to do this. A bill introduced by Democratic lawmakers, can you imagine them turning this down? Probably not, would create a commission of transgender persons and activists to ensure the LGBT agenda is carried out in all sectors of public life.
That's sick.
New York Post. New York City principal denies request for Holocaust survivor to speak at school, given his messages. A Brooklyn middle school principal denied a parent's request to have a Holocaust survivor speak to students about anti-Semitism, saying the victim's pro-Israel views are not appropriate for a public school. Wow. From Fox. Mysterious marijuana-linked vomiting disorder, which I mentioned the first time like 9 years ago. It's gotten so out of hand, it's unbelievable. It gets official World Health Organization code as ER cases jump. It's called, anybody? Scromiting, because you scream and vomit at the same time. It's become an epidemic everywhere. World Health Organization adds cannabis-related syndrome to diagnostic manual as ER visits spike 650%. Life News. Canada euthanized a record 16,499 patients in 2024. It'll only be used in the most extreme circumstances. Gateway Pundit. Minnesota immigrant rapist who walked free on sweetheart plea deals strikes again. Rapes the third victim after dodging jail for kidnapping and raping a woman he met online. Independent. Trump team cancels funding for World AIDS Day commemorations after 37 years. Fox. New York State blocks second Long Island school district from adopting transgender bathroom ban. They wanted to have a ban so that the girls stay in the girls' bathroom without guys interfering, and the New York State came down and said you can't do that. Got some other news. Gateway Pundit. Inside Out Approach. How China uses Southeast Asia scam centers for espionage. I've told you about these scam centers. They are being funded by China. That's what's going on. The U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission has identified a disturbing new pattern in China's regional expansion. Beijing is exploiting Chinese criminal networks operating massive scam centers across Southeast Asia as a pretext to deploy its internal security forces and gather intelligence throughout the region. This strategy is called the inside-out approach. The inside-out approach refers to how China builds influence and intel networks abroad by first embedding itself inside foreign criminal ecosystems and then pushing its reach outward into political, economic, and security spheres. Instead of starting with overt diplomatic or military tools, the CCP begins by cultivating relationships with Chinese triads, which are everywhere. We got them in New York. We got them everywhere. Where there is a group of Chinese, a community, there will be triad people there. Businesses fronts, brokers, and migrant networks already operating in a target country. These actors provide cover, logistics, and local access that Beijing cannot obtain through official channels. So the government is actively seeking out long-standing residents of other countries and saying, we will help fund your illegal activities if you give us information we need to take over the universe. Okay? Once embedded, China uses these transnational criminal organizations to gather intelligence, move money, map local power structures, and influence political actors, creating an informal but highly effective forward presence. This model is visible across Southeast Asia and Latin America, where Chinese criminal syndicates run casinos, online scan compounds, money laundering hubs, and illicit finance networks. Many of these groups maintain quiet links to Chinese police, intelligence officers, or United Front operatives. Their operations generate leverage over local elites and expand China's regional situational awareness. From there, the CCP layers in formal tools such as law enforcement cooperation, security agreements, digital surveillance exports, and BRI investments, converting an underworld foothold into a broader intelligence and influence network. Chinese criminal networks operate industrial-scale scam centers across Southeast Asia that steal tens of billions of dollars every year, including more than $16 billion from Americans. These compounds function like modern slave camps. Criminal gangs lure workers with fake job offers, traffic them across borders, and imprison them inside fortified buildings where many are beaten, tortured, or forced to work under threat. This is something I reported on a few months ago under a different context, but it is the Chinese that are behind these. The UN estimates that more than 220,000 people have been held as forced laborers in scam centers in Cambodia and Burma. And these are people like from South Korea. They're people from the U.S. They're people that just want a job and they want to go see Cambodia. They fly there and they end up in prison. They're actually slaves. Slave society in the world today. We talked about that during Bible study on Thursday. The centers rely on scams such as pig butchering, investment fraud, romance schemes, and phone calls impersonating banks or government officials. For Beijing, these criminal ecosystems create the conditions for China's inside-out approach, serving as both a justification and a vehicle for inserting Chinese police and intelligence personnel into neighboring countries. Very serious. It is going on around the world, and China doesn't care at all about the human life that they are sacrificing in the process. They've done it from their own people for eons. Now they are expanding it around the world without any care, total impunity. Zero Hedge. USPS built mail system on foreign truck drivers, and now it expects special treatment from the law. The USPS is not doing well. Here we go. I'll read you the article. When the DOT's emergency rule exposed 200,000 fraudulently issued non-domiciled CDLs, most of the trucking industry braced for a painful but necessary correction. The USPS did something far worse. It threw a tantrum and refused to comply. The USPS briefly tried following the law by barring these drivers from postal loads. The result? Instant paralysis. Routes were abandoned, trailers sat empty, and delays exploded nationwide. While the broader trucking market absorbed the initial shock because these non-domiciled CDLs represent only a fraction of most capacity, USPS discovered that its own contractor network had become grotesquely dependent on these very drivers. In other words, the Postal Service had systematically replaced lawful American drivers with cheaper, unregulated labor holding these licenses, creating a house of cards that collapsed the moment federal rules were enforced. Instead of accepting responsibility for building an illegal labor-dependent system, USPS executives did the unthinkable. Senior VP Rootsolis, I don't know how you pronounce his name, went on an emergency call and admitted they didn't understand the magnitude of their own reliance, then ordered an immediate return to using the banned drivers. Translation? Because USPS is one of the worst offenders in flooding its network with fraudulent CDLs, it believes it deserves special treatment that no one else gets. Now that's too bad because you got mail handlers all over America that want to do their job. They want to just go out and hand out the mail. But the structure behind them has been built on, they're billions of dollars in debt every year. $6 billion here, $6 billion there. And they are trying to save money by hiring anybody they can get. And this is the result. Mail Online. IT consultant says he was put through 13 weeks of, I'll say heck, after he was arrested for posing with a shotgun in Florida. Yeah. This is a guy in the UK. He comes to Florida. He goes out and shoots gun and has a good time. And now he's in trouble. John Richelieu Booth posted 3 images of himself with firearms while staying on private property with friends in the United States. However, when he arrived back in the UK, a police officer visited his house to warn him that concerns had been raised about his account. The 50-year-old said he offered to prove that the pictures had been taken in the United States, where owning or shooting guns are legal. Officers told him it was not necessary. A week later, the officers returned and arrested him on suspicion of possessing a firearm with intent to cause fear or violence. He also faced another allegation of stalking related to a photograph of a house that appeared on his social media. Mr. Richelieu Booth was held overnight in a cell before being interviewed. He was then released on bail. He claims police visited his home 3 more times before charges against him were dropped. Breitbart, biggest assault on our liberties in 800 years. The UK is thinking about abolishing trial by jury. Threatens freedom of speech. Freedom of speech will be under even greater threat if the British government is able to do away with jury trials for almost all cases, because legal studies show a judge sitting alone is far more likely to convict defendants in free speech than juries is. That's because they have, it's the God complex. I am in charge. I get to do what I want. There you go. That's coming. From the Post-Millennial, Idaho bar offers month-free beer for residents who help ICE deport illegal immigrants.
I love it.
Zero Hedge. Harvard report warns of damaging grade inflation. 60% of all of Harvard's grades are A's. Epic Times. National murder rate is lowest in modern history, says the FBI director. The lowest in modern history. But you're not going to hear that on the news. Mail Online. Electric dreams in tatters as another EV truck company, once worth $148 million, officially dies. Once again, all of these people were getting government subsidies. They were just getting money and they didn't have to produce anything. And when all of a sudden Trump said, we're not doing that anymore, they had to scramble, and they didn't scramble, and they are going out like flies. Unbelievable. But one of them keeps going pretty well, and he wasn't getting any subsidies at all. I wonder why. Mail Online. Latest sign ripoff Las Vegas is on its last legs as airline sees passenger numbers slump up to 60%. Zero Hedge. Democrats sue after Trump cuts SNAP benefits for alien migrants. Now, wait a minute. Wasn't there argument less than 1 month ago that we don't give any SNAP to illegal aliens and migrants? And yet they are suing to allow it now. KTTC. U.S. DOT finds 1/3 of Minnesota's non-domiciled CDLs were issued illegally. 1/3. From the AP, Federal Review finds 44% of U.S. trucking schools don't comply with government rules. 44%. Wow. Zero Hedge. Duffy purges 3,000 trucking schools in sweeping crackdown on migrant CDL crisis. He got rid of 3,000. You are out of business. Zero Hedge. Trump orders approval for mini K cars to be built in America. Cutest cars in the world. You go to Japan and they got these little boxes, and they're so cute. Man, I had one when I was there. These little cars was a high-ace van or something. I can't remember what it was called, but we would sleep in the back of it. We'd drive down to the beach and we'd sleep in the back of it. We'd go up in the mountains and we had a little burner stove. And the guy that I bought it from hooked up a second battery. So I flipped a switch and it would charge that. And then we'd have, cool all night and we could cook things on it was just great. Yeah, bacon. Real bacon. It was great. Anyway, who said it? If you find it hard to laugh at yourself, I would be happy to do it for you. Groucho Marx. Okay, my friend in Australia, the Sad Land, he sends me these once in a while. He gives me one, and they're really good. So thanks, Will. Anyway, Lesrick. The UK spoils citizens' fun when they're touring and under the gun. Their admin finds it best placing under arrest till they drop charges once all is done. Okay, and then we got a couple ironies, and we'll be done. Let's see here. Mail online. I got to give this guy a hats off. If you're going to do something like this, you might as well do it well. And this guy had it to a T. Here we go. Unemployed son, 56, dressed as his late mother to claim her pension while her body was hidden at home. I know it's gross, but he looked exactly like her. It was uncanny. I don't know how they ever caught the guy because it was uncanny. Okay.
Bates by chance?
Yeah, last name Bates. Mail online. Thailand. This is in Thailand. Dead grandmother wakes up in coffin and bangs on the lid moments before she was about to be cremated. I've done at least 10 of those over the past how many years? Unbelievable. Wait. Good job, Granny. Such is the world in which we live. So from Sarasota, Florida to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I'm Charlie Garrett, and that is your CG Prophecy Report for the week.